Hey, what's good, y'all? It's your boy Mike J, and I'm back again with another video, and today I'll be presenting my top 5 favorite movies from the 80s. Now, as always, before I start the list, here are my honorable mentions. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Goonies, Blade Runner, Empire Strikes Back, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and The Breakfast Club. Now, without further ado, let's get straight to the video. Starting at number 5, I have Coming to America. With me being a huge Eddie Murphy fanatic and with Coming to America being one of my absolute favorite comedies, it's something that I just absolutely love rewatching over and over again. This is when Eddie Murphy was at his prime, when he was the undisputed king of comedy throughout the 80s after being in dozens of films like 48 Hours, Trading Places, Beverly Hills Cop, etc, etc. But when it came to Coming to America, it brilliantly showcases Eddie Murphy's talents as both not just an actor, but also as a writer as well, considering the fact that he came up with the story of the film. He plays a wealthy prince named Akeem from a fictional country called Zamunda, who travels all the way to New York City to go find a woman to marry after rejecting an arranged marriage that was set up by his parents. It may be a fish out of water story that may seem very simple, but I just really admire the way how this movie showed you the struggles that celebrities deal with while dating, because of the way how the character of Akeem wants a woman to love him for who he is as a person and not because of how much money he has or how much he's worth. Plus, the film has top-notch humor and an all-star cast of black actors such as the likes of James Earl Jones, Arsenio Hall, a cameo from Samuel L. Jackson, and the biggest standout for me was definitely Cleo McDowell, played by John Amos. I gotta say, every scene with him still makes me laugh because of how funny he is. 32 years later, Coming to America holds up really well as a classic romance comedy, and with the second one coming out within the next year or so, I'm hoping it's just as good as the original.
Would you really have given up all of this just for me?
Of course. If you like, we can give it all up now.
Nah.
Coming at number 4, Back to the Future. I mean, come on, who doesn't love this movie? To me, Back to the Future is one of those films that is just so impossible to hate because it has that special charm that gets you intrigued with it. With this film being directed by Robert Zemeckis and produced by Steven Spielberg, it's a lighthearted, family-friendly sci-fi flick that has this wonderful concept about a young teen named Marty who travels all the way from 1985 to 1955, where he meets his parents as teenagers. And it's really great to see the way how Marty is dealing with so many things, from dealing with the big bully Biff to trying to get his parents together while forming a bond with his dorky father, while also dealing with the fact that his mother has fallen for him, which is pretty gross and awkward, and also trying to avoid from changing the course of history while dealing with all of that at the same time. And that right there is just like the pure definition of just brilliant writing. Simply put, this movie is just a blast from start to finish because I can't even name anything I dislike about it. From the excellent cast, the wittiness, the character interactions with Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd making such a great duo as Marty McFly and Doc Brown, and the way how it's just beautifully written. Overall, Back to the Future is just a damn near flawless movie that never serves up a dull moment, and it's just thoroughly entertaining from beginning, middle to the end. Even with it being released 35 years later, everything in this movie still looks great. Coming at number 3, I have Raiders of the Lost Ark. With director Steven Spielberg coming off a really great 70s after making fantastic films like Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, he would team up with his buddy George Lucas to help resurrect the action-adventure genre, and that's exactly what they did back in the summer of '81 with Raiders of the Lost Ark. While it's nothing short of a masterpiece, but when you combine the mind of George Lucas and the brilliance of Steven Spielberg, should you expect anything less? Merely everything about Raiders of the Lost Ark just screams iconic, from the memorable characters, the spectacular action sequences, John Williams' magnificent musical score, the great practical effects, etc. etc. Harrison Ford perfectly embodied the character of Indiana Jones. Matter of fact, he pretty much was made for this role because it's hard to imagine anybody else who brings like this very mischievous vibe to a character who's very brave, nerdy, charming, and who's just overall very cool. It still kind of blows my mind that he went from playing Han Solo in Star Wars to playing Indiana Jones. Like, just think about it. They're 2 of the top 10 most iconic movie characters, and the fact that he went back and forth to playing both characters simultaneously and successfully is just, I can't even put it to words. Oh yeah, and I cannot forget to mention Marion Ravenwood, who is such a badass female character. The chemistry between her and Indy is just absolutely wonderful because the way she just comes off as the female version of Indy, because the way she can keep up with him. Even at times where she's a so-called damsel in distress, she always tries to figure out a way to get herself out of a bad situation, which really makes her an interesting character. Pretty much like Back to the Future, I can't name anything I dislike about this movie. Like, I really can't. Not even just one tiny little thing, which says a lot. Which is why Raiders of the Lost Ark still remains such a masterful work of fun entertainment and still remains one of the greatest movies ever made. Coming in at number 2, Scarface. Not only is it the greatest movie remake of all time, and yes, I said it, of all time, it's one of the best gangster movies ever made. Based off the 1932 original, director Brian De Palma did such a tremendous job by demonstrating the rise and fall of Cuban immigrant Tony Montana, who goes from being held at a horrible concentration camp to living the luxurious life in Miami by pursuing the American dream. Al Pacino gave one of the most unforgettable performances in all cinema history as Tony Montana. While he has played some other recognizable movie characters in the past, most notably Michael Corleone for the Godfather trilogy, but when it comes to Scarface, to me, it's probably Pacino's definitive role, because the way how he grabs you by the throat from the first time he appears on screen until his last. People may complain about this movie being over the top with the excessive violence, but over the top or not, this movie is an undeniable classic and just endlessly rewatchable for me.
Okay. Do you want to play rough? Okay. No. Say hello to my little friend.
And coming at number 1, Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Man oh man, do I fucking love Return of the Jedi. Not only is it my absolute favorite movies from the 80s, not just my favorite Star Wars movie, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. While it may be the weakest of the original Star Wars trilogy, but make no mistake about it, it's still a fantastic movie nonetheless. It has the best action of the original trilogy, especially when it comes to the third act, where you have 3 things happening at once, from Lando Calrissian leading the charge in the space battle, the battle on Endor with Luke, Han, and Chewbacca battling the clones with the help of the Ewoks, and the lightsaber battle between Luke and Vader on Death Star. All 3 of those battles really epitomizes everything great about Star Wars. I love this movie so much. It's the last real hurrah of these fantastic characters being together. The way how this film delves into the themes of sacrifice and redemption and executing it so beautifully well. Well, sure, people can be very critical when it comes to the Ewoks, which I can fully understand, but for me, they never bothered me because, as a matter of fact, I actually thought they made a great addition to this film. And while that could be a controversial take, but hey, that's just me. Return of the Jedi was such a satisfying conclusion to a beloved trilogy that is damn near perfect. It exemplifies everything Star Wars is all about by bringing us all the joyful and cheer-worthy moments that the franchise is known for, which is why it is without a doubt my number 1 favorite movies from the 80s. And that's my list. What are your favorite movies from the 80s? Feel free to comment down below. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for weekly videos. I'm your boy Micah J, and peace.